Hello, everybody. So today we're going to be reading a creepy, crawly story. And the story that we're going to be reading is from our Storyworks Junior magazines. And the story is called The Snake That's Eating Florida. So I don't know about you, but that just gives me the heebie jeebies just thinking about it. So I do want to remind you guys that even if you were in the live lesson and you've already heard this story, it's important that you listen to this entire video, not just for the secret word, but there's a lot of distractions in the live videos, and this is just a second opportunity for you to learn these skills. And you're going to need these skills for fourth grade. That's why we're doing them. So we're going to quickly go through the PowerPoint presentation and then we're going to read the story. All right, so The Snake That's Eating Florida. And the standard that we're focusing on this week or this story is I can identify the main idea and key details of a text, and I can explain how the key details support the main idea. All right, so main idea. The main idea is what a story is mostly about. So the way we can figure out what the story is mostly about is looking at the text, the titles, the heading, the pictures. Sometimes the main idea is even in like the first or the last sentence of a passage. And we're going to be looking for clue words that are said over and over and over again, because the main idea isn't just something that the author mentioned. It's what the text is mostly about. What was the author mostly talking about? And a big thing that is helpful for all of us that we've been doing all year is turning the title into a question. There you go. If you turn the title of the story into a question, you should have your main idea. All right, so we have some important vocabulary that we're going to go over. One of them is the Everglades National Park. So this is a park here in Florida, here in South Florida, actually. And the Everglades is a wetland. So wetlands are like wet, swampy, humid areas. And that's where the Everglades are. It's here in South Florida. They have alligators, they have snakes, they have all sorts of wildlife. You can go there, you can ride a boat through there. Here's like a dock that somebody's standing on, probably taking some pictures. Here's a picture of a gator that's there. Miss Stretch really wants to go to the Everglades and see one of these gators. I don't know why. That's pretty crazy. I don't want to go over and see one of those, but Miss Stretch does. All right, so also another word is climate. So the usual weather in a certain place. So Florida's climate is tropical. So it's mostly sunny and it has some rain, but the usual climate of Florida is tropical where it's sunny. All right, so another word is species. It's a kind of animal or plant. So it's important to know that there's lots of many species of snakes. I know for me, I don't like any of them, but there are more dangerous species and species that aren't, harmful to people just as long as you leave them alone. But there's many different species of snakes. Um, okay, so another word that we're going to be talking about is invasion. So an invasion is something that takes a land or a group of people. So when something is invasive, it's taking over and it's doing harm. For example, the coronavirus is an invasive disease that affects the entire world. So it's harmful and it's taking over. All right, and then finally, we're going to set a purpose for reading. And remember, we're thinking about the main idea. So bring your attention to all of your text features. This is a nonfiction text today. So we're going to bring the attention to all of our text features. Think about what the author wants to teach us about the topic and what words are helping us understand that. Think about how the text features help us understand what we're reading. And think about other strategies which help us understand nonfiction text, such as cause and effect. All right, so I hope you guys are as excited as me. Story is just thinking about it is making me uncomfortable, but we're going to read it together. We're going to get through this. And the story is called The Snake That's Eating Florida. I also want us to think about, is that literal or non-literal? Is a snake actually capable of eating the entire state of Florida? Or is that just a non-literal saying that the author is using? Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the snake that's eating Florida. Deadly pythons are taking over a beautiful park. Can we stop them? One January morning in 2003, visitors were exploring Everglades National Park. This is a wild and beautiful place in Florida, made up of wetlands. The golden grass stretched out in all directions. Frogs croaked and crickets chirped. The visitors were excited about the day. Maybe they'd see a rare bird or even a Florida panther. These are all things you can see at the Everglades. But the visitors were about to see something strange and horrible. A huge alligator was wrestling an enormous snake. The visitors would learn that the snake was a Burmese python. The alligator had its jaws around the snake. The snake was wrapped around the alligator. The animals fought like two monsters in a horrible film. This wrestling match was the sign of a problem, a big, slithery problem. Okay, so our pause and think is, what did the visitors see? Well, the visitors saw an alligator and a snake wrestling. Could you imagine what that would look like? I would be so scared I would run away. Out of place. Burmese pythons are not from the United States. This species comes from southern Asia. But many years ago, park workers noticed Burmese pythons living in the Everglades. This surprised them. How did animals from halfway around the world get there? In the 1970s, people began selling Burmese pythons in the U.S. as pets. Some people think baby pythons look cute, but these little snakes grow. An adult Burmese python can be longer than a minivan. It can weigh up to 250 pounds. These snakes eat animals, such as raccoons and even deer. The snakes have special jaws that allow them to open their mouth wide and eat animals that are bigger than their bodies. So, how did Burmese pythons first get to Florida? Well, a really long time ago, back in the 1970s, people started bringing them over from Asia to have as pets because they thought that when they were little and when they were babies, they were super cute. But as all pets do, Burmese pythons grow. So if you think, wow, I really want to get a puppy, they're super cute, but you have to remember they're going to get bigger. And Burmese pythons get really big, the size of a minivan. So let's read this little caption right here to this photo. Snake snacks. It can take Burmese pythons weeks to digest some of their bigger meals. Luckily, they don't like to eat humans. Oh, phew, okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. So we have deer. This looks like a bobcat, I think. A raccoon and a bunny. All right, set free. People who bought Burmese pythons were often sorry they did, but they didn't know what to do next. What would you do with a giant snake that can eat live bunnies? Many people decided to set their snakes loose outside, but that wasn't a good idea. Other pythons may have been set free by accident. In 1992, Florida had a hurricane. Its strong winds wrecked buildings, including one building that held a collection of reptiles. Hundreds of baby Burmese pythons were suddenly on the loose. Some of them may have ended up in the Everglades. The warm, moist climate there is perfect for pythons. Oh my goodness, you guys, I feel like I'm getting goosebumps because I feel like pythons are crawling all on top of me right now. The pause and think question says, in what two ways were pythons set free? Well, one of them was that people didn't know what to do when the pythons got bigger, so they just let them go because they didn't want them anymore. And the other way could have been if a pet store got hit by a really bad hurricane that happened in Florida, a bunch of animals would have escaped. All right, let's keep reading. Snake invaders. Park workers worried that these snakes could harm the environment. Burmese pythons are an invasive species. That's a species that moves into a new area, takes over, and eats too many of the animals and plants already living there. Many invasive species live in the U.S. They cause a lot of problems. The Burmese pythons in the Everglades have eaten so many animals that some of them have been disappearing. Lots of foxes are being eaten by snakes. There aren't many cottontail rabbits anymore. Raccoons, deers, possums, bobcats are almost gone as well. So, what is an invasive species? An invasive species is a species that comes in and takes over, starts getting rid of other animals, and then our ecosystem can't work the same way. So, it's not a good thing. A long struggle. It is now against the law to bring Burmese pythons to the US to sell, but it might be too late for that to help. There may be as many as 150,000 pythons living in the Everglades. No one knows the exact number. Trying to count the brown and green snakes would be impossible because they blend in with the wetlands. This makes it very hard to find them. People are coming up with smart ways to try to solve the python problem. Scientists are finding and trapping snakes. Wildlife experts in Florida are asking anyone who sees a python to report it on a special website. Lots of people are hunting the snakes. A python hunt started in January 2016. More than 100 pythons were caught. As one park ranger says, "We are at war." So far, the battle seems a lot like the wrestling match between the alligator and the python. The struggle will go on for a long time. And right now, nobody can say for sure who will win. All right, so we're going to quickly read our captions. The Wild Everglades. This park at the bottom tip of Florida is bigger than the whole state of Rhode Island. The Everglades is home to more than 750 different animal species. So our secret word of the day is going to be species. Species, don't forget. This caption right here says mom and babies. A female Burmese python can lay as many as 100 eggs in one nest. So, now that we've read this whole thing, I want you to be thinking about, what is this passage mostly about? What did the author talk about over and over and over again? And is now our main idea. As you think about that, if you're struggling, make sure you go back, look at the headers, look at the title, and find different things that the author talked about multiple times. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this story as much as I do. Go ahead and go work on your exit ticket, and I'll see you soon.